Alright guys, today I'm going to show you how to use this Motive Products Power Bleeder on a 2007 Subaru STi. First you want to jack up the car, take off the wheels. I'm not going to show every little detailed step if you're trying to bleed your brakes. If you don't know how to jack up your car and take the wheels off, you should take it to a professional. But I will give you a couple of tips and pointers, especially on these WRXs. So first is the bleed order. And this is different from most cars because most start, automatically from the furthest brake away from the master cylinder, which is usually the back passenger side. But in this case, it is the passenger front. Oh, and there's also two bleed nipples on this Brembo brake caliper. Mine's all burnt up because I went on the track a bunch. There's there's a bleed nipple on the inside, and there's a bleed nipple on the outside of the Brembo brake. You bleed the inside one first, and then the outside one. And you do that on every caliper that you're gonna come to. So passenger front, then you're gonna go to the driver rear, then you're gonna do the driver front, and finally the passenger rear. So that bleed order is very important on these STIs, at least for the 2007s. I'm pretty sure that applies to all of them. So anyway, the Motive Power Bleeder, it's gonna come with just this bottle. You're gonna have to get the attachment for whatever vehicle you're using it on. This Subaru is particularly the Ford 3-prong one. I forget the part number. I think it's, there we go, I have it right here. Make sure you get the model 1107 because that is the important 3-prong Ford one that you need. So first you take off this cap. Well, first, okay, unscrew this. When you get it new out of the package, it'll be dry. Mine's just recently cleaned out with water. You know, fill up as much brake fluid as you can, whatever brake fluid you want to run. I use very particular racing fluid for mine. So Modal 660, you can't go wrong with that. There's some blue stuff out there, or I'm sorry, there's some 700-degree temp stuff, but I haven't tried it, so I can't trust it. Or at least I can't recommend it to you guys. So fill this thing up with as much brake fluid as possible. This thing's really super easy. It's a one-man job. You don't need two people to do this. So you're gonna screw it on nice and tight, and then you're gonna run this 3-prong adapter. And when you're doing this, make sure you put down a towel or something around this whole area of brake fluid because you'll make a fucking disastrous mess. So pop this off, this fucking yellow master reservoir cap. Screw this one on. Make sure you line up these inside tabs with the tabs on the master cylinder. So after you, just a word of advice, when you're done bleeding this, there's going to be you're gonna run into a very complicated fucking hard thing when you go to twist this back off because it's gonna be stuck on there. I don't know if it's because of the pressure that maybe builds up behind this thing or something, but you're gonna probably need a pair of pliers. I know I did. I have some pretty strong hands, but just because of the angle that you're going in there, you can't really get a good grip on it. So grab a pair of big pliers or something to twist that thing off. Just don't fucking overdo it or you snap something that you don't want to break. So put that on there, make sure everything's lined up, give it a twist, and then you're going to pump this bad boy up. You will have a towel down so this thing's not going to be popping all over the place. And you just push that thing down, lift it up, and you're going to keep, some stuff coming out. You're just going to keep pressing this fucking handle until you get to between 10 and 15 psi. That's blue on there. Don't fucking go by the red. That's not enough pressure. Once you get 10 to 15 psi on there, should be good. I didn't have to pump it after I built it. I built up the pressure to about 14 psi, and then I was able to bleed the whole system, as in a complete brake flush from this fluid in the master reservoir, this master cylinder reservoir, all the way out to all four corners. I didn't have to pump it, but maybe one other time, but you should be okay. And then you go back to the process that I first mentioned, and you're gonna bleed from the passenger front, driver rear, driver front, and then passenger rear. And then once you're done that, make sure you dispose of your brake fluid properly, unlike me, where I just drank it because I'm a fucking man. No, I'm just kidding. Don't drink it. Give it to your neighbor's dog that shits in your yard or something. So then you pop off this 3-prong thing that's going to be on there. I'm obviously not going to test it or do it for you guys because it's going to be fucking hard to get it back off. And I don't feel like doing that. Make sure where you put this master cylinder reservoir cap back on. Give it a twist. Make sure it's snug. Make sure it's secure. And that's it. This thing's really convenient. It's really super easy to use. It's not too complicated. Just make sure you clean it out afterwards. I think the directions say to rinse it out with alcohol. Don't rinse it out, or don't actually leave the old brake or even new brake fluid in there. It'll mess it up. Don't recycle any brake fluid. Make sure you're using fresh stuff, and don't use any stuff that's been sitting out on the shelf for, I think, more than like 3 months. Pretty much just buy brand new brake fluid whenever you want to do this. While you're bleeding it, connect the tube to your bleed nipple. Make sure whatever color brake fluid is in there, make sure that comes out over here. Should be the same color. Make sure there's no bubbles, obviously, too. If you're getting bubbles in the line, by the way, when you're bleeding it, like on the caliper, these little air bubbles will get sometimes in the line, and it'll look like there's just a shit ton of air coming out of your brake system, but that's actually not the case. There's usually like a little small leak between the bleed nipple and the tubing that'll go on there. So there'll be like a little air pocket, or I'm sorry, just a little gap between the nipple and the brake line. Not the brake line, I'm sorry, the tubing. So air gets sucked up in there, and it'll look like it. Just make sure it's tight on there. Make sure you're using a new proper fitting tube to bleed on there, or the tube to put on there, so you can see whether or not it's running okay. And that's it. That's all I'm gonna do. Pretty easy for the last time. Go do it. All right, fresh brake fluid. Thumbs up. Peace out.